For the purposes of this review, I'm only going to talk about the core album, but don't worry, I will talk about the anthology tracks at a later time. Alright, it's time to talk about it. This is my review for the second half of this double album that was released a few hours after the standard edition of the Tortured Poets Department came out. If you want to know my thoughts on the core album, I have that video in the comments below. So, what are my thoughts on the anthology? Honestly, I like it. I think it's a lot better than the first half, and I honestly wonder why this wasn't released as the standard version. With the anthology, Aaron Dessner takes over primary producing duties. For those that don't know, he produced Folklore and Evermore, which are my two favorite Taylor Swift albums, so naturally, I found myself gravitating towards this side more than the first. I think the instrumentation is lovely. Sure, it's not as rustic as the 2020 Twins, but the more stripped-back, acoustic-led production sounds very nice. There's a quiet despair in the music of this side that I find to be a lot more compelling and better executed than in the core album. I also think Taylor's writing is generally better. Sure, there are some lyrical duds here and there, specifically certain lines about Grand Theft Auto and the 1830s. You know the ones I'm talking about. But for the most part, the poetry being conveyed is captivating and her most mature body of work since 2020. And the combination of these elements result in some great ballads. The Black Dog is a great start for this half, and it really should have kicked off the album in general. Love the vivid imagery of the pub Taylor sings about, and those big rocking crashes when she sings the word screaming are very satisfying. Tracks like Cassandra and Peter do a great job at telling personal anecdotes in sweet fashion, and tracks like the Albatross, How Did It End, and The Bolter are just beautiful. My favorite track on this side, though, is Chloe or Sam or Sophia or Marcus. The writing is great, the melody is lovely, and that little riff that plays throughout the track is so sticky and I love it. With all of that said, the anthology does suffer from some of the same things that the core album did. Sometimes the production can be pretty boring and uninspired, and the writing certainly has its cringy moments. There is a section in the middle of this side where the quality dips pretty drastically. So High School has a nice sentiment to it, but the more rock-influenced instrumentation feels like it's not doing enough, and the mid-tempo pace causes it to fall flat. I Hate It Here and I Look in People's Windows are pretty, but the writing on both of them is fairly weak. Then we have the track Thank You Amy, which might be the worst song on the entire 31-song project. It's a Kim Kardashian diss track, and a rather bad one at that. But all in all, I think the anthology is pretty good. It's not Taylor's best work, but it is a lovely collection of tracks featuring gorgeous instrumentation, and the more somber approach to Taylor's writing and storytelling goes over quite well. Now this begs the question, did this project need to be a double album? Absolutely not. I'm sorry, but taking both sides into consideration, there are too many weak, obnoxious, and unnecessary tracks to warrant its length. I think if Taylor got rid of the weaker cuts in the anthology and added a few of the best songs off of the Tortured Poets Department, then you'd have a pretty great 15 to 16 track album. But hey, it is what it is, and the anthology is still a nice addition to the Taylor Swift catalog. There's a pretty high chance that you've already listened to it, but if you're not a fan, give the anthology tracks another shot. Who knows? You might be surprised. 7 out of 10.